In the last video, we took our first look at working with decks A and B. We looked at how to dump each of the decks' loop pattern into the piano roll. In this video, we'll begin our look at layering the two decks. In a nutshell, layering in SliceX will allow you to map the markers in sequential order of each of the two decks to the same MIDI notes, which can be played from your MIDI controller keyboard or from the piano roll of your pattern. Let's begin with the basics of layering. There are many modes on how SliceX will layer the notes, but the default, there is no layering applied. To enable the layering, select Layer Both Decks from the option menu. Right away you can see that the markers in both loops are updated to show their names for both decks. Now when I play a note from the on-screen keyboard, you can hear how it plays both the assigned markers for that key in both decks. Playing back my pattern, you can now hear each note will trigger both decks. And while this is an extreme example, this option can be very useful when combining multiple loops that merge nicely together. Once you have the loops layered, you can go through some of the different layering methods from the layering menu. The default value is all, as we just heard. It merely layers one deck on top of the other. You'll need to watch your levels, as obviously this layering will cause an increase in volume. The next option is the all gain compensated method. This option will reduce the overall volume as the two markers are played together. If there are markers that trigger only a second note, then the gain is automatically returned to the normal level. The Modulation X Mapped acts like a balance between the two loops, using the X position on the modulation graph. Modulation Y Mapped is the same, however, using the Y axis on the modulation graph to set the balance point. The random method will randomly decide whether or not both or only one of the deck's markers will be played. The cycle method will play through the loop on deck A, then through the loop on deck B, then cycle back to deck A, and so forth. The song type sync method will sync the markers to the tempo of your song by selecting automatically the marker that is closest to being on beat. So in this video, we had a look at the possibilities of layering the loops in both deck A and B. In the next video, we'll take a further look at tweaking these layers as well as some advanced markers to the key mappings.